memorial. She said it'd be great if I was there, could catch up with everyone, but if you're not, I said, well, only it won't be a memorial if you're here, it'll just be a party. So she said, if I'm not there, have a good time, put some drinks on the bar, and everyone just celebrate. So that's what we're here for. Before I forget, there is a table at the back there. It's got some bookmarks on it. The girls have organised some magnets from her fridge, some other bits and pieces. So that's there for anybody to take. There's some photos up the back. We've divided them into, because Anne had heaps of photos, as you can imagine. Photos of friends and family, miscellaneous and holidays. I think every holiday that she ever went. People have probably got copies because Anne was a good one for doing one copy and then sending off another copy to everyone else. So you probably all got copies of them, but help yourself. Anyone who wants to take some photos, go for it. Thanks a lot for everyone coming. There'll be some more speeches, but I'll start off with Joanna Tara.
Thank you. Hello. That's a bit tall for me. Tara and I weren't going to speak today, but this morning I found this letter that our Auntie Anne had written to the Queen. And her response to the Queen wrote back to her. So I'm reading the letter, Tara's going to read the response. So it says, Dear Your Royal Highness, Queen Elizabeth, Your Majesty, my name is Anne Lehman. I am 81 years of age and have been a follower of yours as long as I can remember. The purpose of my letter is because I am sick and tired of the newspapers, yours and mine, in our respective countries, preempting your family lives and future. As in any family, our children are a product of how they are raised, and yours and Prince Philip's, considering the pressure of public life since birth, have done a damn, and then she's got in brackets, sorry, good job. We all experience hurts and people who think they know all. Knowing the fact you have to be diplomatic, you have been exceptional in your strength and loyalty to your country and people of the Commonwealth. I have probably wanted to write this letter for a long time, but I've had a couple of scotches and thought this is the time. My husband died 18 years ago, so to have Prince Philip by your side till now is wonderful. As you know, the visit of your children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren to our beautiful country Australia is always a hit, let alone when you and Prince Philip have visited. May I just say, I hope to have not been too forward with my thoughts, and that I hope you and Prince Philip keep good health and enjoy your beautiful family. Thank you, Queen Elizabeth. And this is a response from Buckingham Palace. It actually has the stamp on there. Dear Anne Miss Lehman, the Queen has asked me to thank you for your very thoughtful letter. Her Majesty was touched by your wish to write to express your loyal support for her and the royal family, and the Queen greatly appreciates your kind words. Her Majesty was pleased to hear you have greatly welcomed royal tours to Australia over the years, and I am to tell you how much such visits have been enjoyed by the Queen and her family, who have many happy memories of the time they spent in their wonderful country. Letters such as yours have been a source of much pleasure and encouragement to Her Majesty during her long reign, and I am thankful again for writing as you did. Yeah, pretty special. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good to get a reply.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like the touch with the scotches.
I know. It was just so Auntie Anne, wasn't it?
Okay, as I said, we're here to celebrate Anne's life. Barbara Anne was born, was the firstborn on October the 6th, 1937, the older twin of our mum Iris. We always knew her as Auntie Anne growing up, but as you can imagine, I was surprised when we found out Barbara was her first name. Auntie Barbara just didn't sound right. We asked why she was called Anne and not Barbara, and she had no reason she could give us. She said that Mum was named after Auntie Iris, who was married to our grandpa James, his brother Len, but she couldn't give any reason why she was called Barbara. Later on, a brother Barry was born, and their parents were James or Jim and Mina. The twins are born in Finley Hospital, which was a big old house, Triplets were born at the same time, which was very exciting for a small country town. There must have been something in the water or the beer that year, I reckon. Anne went to primary school in Finley at 5 years of age. The family had a general store in Finley called Miller's, which sold drapery, haberdashery, farm equipment and ironmongery. The family business was sold when the twins were 14 years old. Uncle Len stayed in Finley, Uncle Dale moved to Brighton, and the twins and family moved to Edithvale. The family, James, believed they would get a better education and have more opportunities in the city. They attended Mordialloc High School. James purchased a milk bar next to the school in Edithvale Road. It supplied lunch orders for the Edithvale Primary School next door. Anne worked in Flinders Lane at a fabric warehouse, and then Lonsdale Street in a fashion warehouse. Our mum also worked in the city. I remember them talking about catching the train together with many others going to work. Anne met Terry Lehman at 29 years of age at the Pier Hotel in Frankston. Terry was singing there at the time. They dated for some time before Terry moved to Sydney to be a support artist for some big acts. Anne followed Terry to Sydney at age 34. In Sydney, Anne worked in a fashion warehouse for 2.5 years. Then Anne worked as a travel agent in Cremorne at Diamond Tours. I remember the little business card, right from early ages, yeah. First as a receptionist and then as a travel consultant. She got to travel to many places as part of her job, and you can tell by the photos, and part of her job. And remember, she would always send myself, Joanne and Tara postcards. Anne worked there for 9.5 years. Terry and Anne then started their own business called Standing Med, selling wheelchairs and other equipment, which continued to Terry's poor health. Terry and Anne fell in love with Fiji from their first holiday there. It was there where they met Jerry, who became one of their closest friends, along with Chris. They had many holidays to Fiji together, and Anne even went after Terry passed. Terry was diagnosed with asbestosis after working in a hardware shop when he was 16. He endured a long and painful battle which took his life in 2000. Before that, Anne reported that the wedding was one of the happiest days of her life. It was a huge party that I think lasted a week, and that was just in Melbourne. I think another week in Sydney, another week in Brisbane. With inspections helped by Jerry and Chrissy, they purchased their first house in McGregor in Brisbane, not far from Jerry and Chris. Sadly, Terry did not get to spend time in the house, but was happy in the fact that Anne had somewhere to settle into. The house had a guest book, and I don't think Anne was by herself very often. Life continued, but she missed Terry very much. Anne moved to a retirement village in Eagleby, Queensland with Jerry and Chris, which allowed Anne to keep travelling. She had several overseas trips in her late 70s and 80s. There was a whole type of photos, as I said before. Anne never learned to drive. She always said that she never needed to. Someone would always take her somewhere or pick her up, so no reason to get your licence. Anne had this special something of just keeping in touch with all her friends, and they kept in contact with her. She had a diary with everyone's birthdays in. Her contact list in her phone, which we need to look at on her passing, was extensive. And everyone I spoke to said she was just fantastic in keeping everyone informed of what others were doing. Bragging about family and friends to others was what she was great at. Everyone just was informed of what everyone was doing. I remember when we were younger and older, when we heard Auntie Anne was coming to stay, we were just so excited. To see her was just awesome. She would spoil us with gifts, souvenirs from her travels, other things. She would then leaving Mum and Dad to get us back on track again. Comments like, Auntie Anne let us do that, did not go well with Mum. Our Mum always referred to Anne as the bossy one. And I did say to Mum once when she was 80 that she was first born and you should be used to it by now. Terry also said to Anne, don't you go down to Melbourne and cause chaos. She always said, no, I won't. But she did. In the most beautiful ways, which we all loved. With friends visiting, special dinners, etc. It really was a special occasion, and yes, it did cause some chaos. Anne and I celebrated many birthdays together, 40th in Melbourne, 50th in Sydney, 60th in Melbourne, 70th in Melbourne, 80th in Melbourne. They really did have a special bond. Moving Anne from Queensland to Melbourne was a massive job. It started with Peter and Sue packing some boxes and things, which, as you know, it's a massive job. And then myself, Joanne and Tara went up for 4 days and completed the task. It was a great time, and Anne was looking forward to the move. Lucky the girls were a bit ruthless because a lot of things were sorted and didn't come. That newspaper article from 4 weeks ago, or that magazine from 6 months ago, that might have had a good article, sorry, but was not allowed to come to Melbourne. But don't worry, Anne replaced them with many others when she got in.
Yeah, that's right.
The story and memories that we packed and being with Anne were just priceless. Relief of seeing everything loaded into the truck, and more relief when it arrived in Melbourne, was excellent. We had a last night in Queensland in Currumbin in a beautiful beachside apartment, and went to the Currumbin OSL for dinner to mark the end of one chapter in Queensland and the beginning of a new chapter back in Melbourne. The 15 months or so was filled with shopping, medical appointments, family gatherings for any occasion, and also getting together to watch the football. Even a sneaky lunch at the pub after shopping was thrown in there, and the odd glass of bubbles. Anne loved nothing better than sitting there watching sport, any type of sport, and was beside herself when the Olympics were on. I think her sleeping and her weight patterns took a massive change during this time. Anne loved to follow the horses and loved a certain trainer, Jason Coyle, or the number 6, or ones with yellow. As much as we tried and I showed her, she just couldn't work out the new TAB app. She would message me, or I would message her about horses, and she would do the traditional $2 each way. So in the end, I put the bets on for her. Funny story, on the Saturday, as we were in the hospital before she passed, she had $38 in her account. So on the Saturday, as she's in the bed, and I'm not sure if she could hear us or not, but we decided that we'd spend that $38 and we'd put some bets on for her. So we went through the ones with 6s, the yellow colours, ones we like the names of, trying to clear the account of the $38. Well, we actually won $10 at the end, so she would have been back with that. So we might put a bet on later. I think the horses are on tonight, so we might see if we can put a bet on. We're not sure if Anne could hear us, but we treated the visits in the hospital as any other visit and was there until the end. She looked comfortable and sleeping, which is how she would have wanted to go. Please don't be sad for Anne. She had the most wonderful life. All the photos confirm that. She had a great love in Terry, great friends, fantastic family, and just did things her way. And loved every bit of life except when the bomb was lost. So when you see the colour yellow, think of Anne, and then she will live on through us forever, and the love that she shared to us all. I was at Dan Murphy's the day after Anne passed, and they were packing deliveries, and I heard a special comment for delivery. They said, Anne has arrived upstairs and there is not enough scotch, so this delivery is urgent. You'll be usually missed, Anne, but we know that wherever you are, whoever you're with, and whatever you're doing, you'll have fun. We love you heaps.
Thanks, Grant. That was awesome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Peter Lehman. I'm proudly Terry's son and Anne's stepson. Welcome. Firstly, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all Anne's family here in Melbourne, especially Grant, Joanne and Tara. Anne loved returning here to Melbourne so much after 50 years and would constantly tell me the amazing help that you were all giving her, from simply making time for a visit, a cuppa and a chat, or taking her out to places whenever she needed to. You all welcomed her with open arms, and I sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for making that effort. You're especially there with her by her side in her last week, and that also means a lot to me. Sadly, this was the first time in years I was unable to be with her, and I'm forever grateful that you kept me updated. You especially, Anne, like me, surely felt the love you all gave her right to the very end, so again, a big thank you. A special big shout out today to El Presidente Grant, who has let us use this amazing venue, which is his pride and joy. So thank you so much. You should be very proud of this, Grant. Well, we're here today to celebrate the life of a lovely lady who has made her mark on each and every one of us. You are all a very special part of her life. Whether you knew Anne for 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years, or for some like me, almost 50 years, in Annie's book, you were a friend for life. Anne definitely had a way of making us all feel comfortable, welcome and loved, didn't she? As most of you know, my original parents split up when I was only 10 years old, and after asking my mother to make contact with Dad, I visited Dad in Sydney when I was only 13. Dad and Anne both took me under their wings, and before I knew it, I had a second mum. Wow, the bond, the memories the three of us created over the years is something very, very special, and I'm so glad that I was part of their lives. As Anne was working as a travel agent when I first met her, luckily she got to travel the world. So she made lifelong friends with George, Elizabeth, Hildy and Sharon and Julie. It was the norm, as Grant said, to receive postcards from all over the world. Once in Fiji, we all know that was Anne and Dad's home away from home, I received a different sort of a postcard. It was simply a coaster from the bar. The coaster was blank on the back. Anne would whack a stamp on it and send it to me. Well, this time I knew she'd been a bit tipsy when riding on the coaster, because it had two simple sentences and it said, "Weather here, wish you were beautiful." The wording became an ongoing joke over the years, and I continued receiving coasters from all over the world for many, many years. This is a great memory of what we all called an Annierism. My love for Anne grew stronger over the years, knowing how much Dad loved her, and we both missed him immensely. We spoke at least once a week on the phone, and Sue and I visited her regularly. We looked forward to our yearly catch-up when we would drive her from Brisbane to Melbourne in December for a few years. There's many stories about these travels, and Anne especially loved catching up with a lot of you along the way. There's a funny Christmas story that I'd also like to share with you. The family has a tradition of exchange of gifts called Bad Santa. Everyone purchases a standard present for an agreed amount of money. On the day, the presents would be piled up in the centre of the room. Everybody pulled a number out of a hat. When it was your turn, you could choose a gift from the pile, or if you wanted to be a bad Santa, you could pinch somebody else's gift that had already been opened. And it was too bad if you had the early numbers. So Anne always asked the girls, whenever she came down to Melbourne, to please buy a present for them, to put it into the kitty. Whenever it was Anne's turn, she always chose a small present, because in the early days she flew down every day and she didn't want to pay for excess luggage. This year she came up with a sneaky idea. She said, "I'm going to put $30 cash in a card," and she threw it on the pile. So her plan was working fine. When it was her turn, she simply grabbed the envelope with a startled look, went, "Wow, $30. Problem solved." What she forgot to account for, that was she wasn't the last person to pick her present. So Anne's sister Iris, her first husband, Alan, who's actually here today, jumped up when it was his turn. After Anne's, guess what? He walked straight over, pinched Anne's $30. The look on Anne's face was priceless. That year, Anne ended up with a bottle of red, and I think it got polished off long before she actually went back to Brisbane. I want to thank Dad today for nominating me as a member of the Melbourne Cricket Club. I've been fortunate to attend over 30 grand finals over the years. The last 2 years have been even more special because since moving to Nelson Bay 4.5 years ago in New South Wales, I've been coming down the last couple of years and we've been staying with Anne in her new abode at Keysborough. Here, Sue and I were able to spend valuable time with her, and she continued to treat and spoil Sue and I like we were children. I want to share with you why this current year was more special than any other. While down at Anne's, I touched base with a lifelong friend for a catch-up and a beer. He said, "Oh, I'm going to a function at a pub in Seaford the next day, and I'm welcome to join him." Anne and Sue's ears pricked up when I was told the guest speakers were two Essendon football legends, James Hird and Joe Watson. Without a heartbeat, Anne quickly jumped out of her chair, grabbed her purse and said, "Let's go, I'm paying." Having never met Anne, my good mate Mark knew how special this was going to be for Anne and Sue, so he actually saved the front row seats at the pub for us. So he was a great mate, and thanks for that vouch. Saved the front. I managed to sneak in a couple of pictures of the two idols before the function started with Anne and Sue. Anne was on cloud nine. She was in her element. She's at a pub with a scotch in her hand, wearing herself out and making new friends. Some would say she'd already been in heaven. Anne, Sue and I love the day immensely. We've constantly spoken about it, and it's a very special memory that we'll hold close to our hearts forever. And amazingly, it was only 7 weeks ago. Wow. After losing the love of her life 24 years ago, Anne soldiered on, knowing that's what Terry would have wanted her to do. Today, Dad and I are so proud of her. She wasn't at wedding the best. Seems like it was only yesterday. Anne's been a big part of my life, and I, like you, will miss her immensely. You don't know how many times I've already tried to ring her in the last couple of weeks. Today, as we celebrate the life of a special person, I'm quite chuffed at what I'm about to tell you next. For those of you who don't already know, Dad and Anne formed a special bond when they moved to Sydney, specifically at the Northbridge Golf Club, with a group of avid golfers / drinkers who over the years became known as the Hoons. They all had appropriate nicknames like all the Hoons do. You've probably heard stories over the year of Bert, Ferk, Bronze, Snake, Taz, Willoughby, Stilly and Sue, Jim and Hildy, Denise, Stan Clear, Bean, Skip, Dicko, Wazza, Fibbo, Sandy, Flafe and the Moth, just to name a few. A few of the lads also formed the Northbridge Yabbies, which according to Snake still exists today. Haha, Terry Tie-Day. As a lot of you know, I kept in touch with you leading up to Anne's passing, and I created a group on social media. This private group was made to save a lot of phone calls and text messages. This group included a lot of the Hoons and other friends of both mine and Anne's. They probably don't know at the time, but the people in this group were such an amazing help to me, reading posts, sharing pictures and laughing at stories. It was just the medicine I needed as we tried to all accept and process the news, which changed daily. Well, I'm really sorry that the Hoons couldn't be here to celebrate with us today. But on hearing Anne's news, they told me they didn't want to miss the celebration for the world. So they've done the next best thing. As I speak, Sue is over here doing a FaceTime video with them. They're all joining us right now at the Northbridge Golf Club, raising their glasses. They're also going to dinner tonight at Anne's favourite Italian restaurant in Northbridge, you know, the one next to the pub. Anne made her mark wherever she went, and she'll be over the moon today, knowing that we are celebrating her life in 2 different states. Well, I'm sure by the end of the day, some of us will probably be in another state as well. Well done, Bronze, and all involved. Special effort, thank you, Ferk, because I know that you're actually overseas in Europe, and you've made it quickly to the golf club this afternoon to raise your glasses. So a big shout out and thank you to Northbridge again. You're all very special people, and I can proudly say that we're friends. Thank you. Note, I have not been given Annie's black book yet, but when I do, I will be contacting all of you for birthdays and anniversaries, just like Anne did. And by the way, happy anniversary to Jim and Hildy today. Now, a special shout out today to a good friend of Dad and Anne's from Canada, who without hesitation has joined us here today. Thank you so much for your effort, Julie. You're a very special lady. Thanks also to Tommy, Kerry and Julie for making the trek down today from the Murray. God help us, look out upstairs. Anne and her lifelong friend Verl, Tommy's wife, are about to create bloody mayhem and havoc. Lastly, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for joining us today as we celebrate the life of a lovely lady called Annie. As per Dad and Anne's wishes, we are releasing both their ashes this weekend at one of her most favourite parts of the world, the beach at Rye on the Mornington Peninsula. Please now raise your glasses and join me in saying thank you and cheers to a very wonderful lady. Cheers, Annie. Cheers. And just one more. This is for both Dad and Anne. A couple of you have asked me to do this post, or do this toast, which is a trademark post of my father's. Anne continued to do this toast over the years, and she even did it the other day when we were at the pub with her new friends. So for both Dad and Anne, here is a reminder of the toast that they all gave us when they met new people. And it goes, here's to you, here's to me. Lifelong friends we'll always be. If perchance we disagree, fuck you, here's to me.
If anyone would like a scotch, there is one of Anne's scotches up at the bar, so help yourself. Ron will serve you one, and you can have it any way you like. So to Anne. So well done. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending. If anyone wants to kick on later on, we can make our way to the Bridge Hotel, the public bar. We haven't booked anything there, but it has meals and drinks if anyone would like to keep going. Nice little walk along the beach, along the river. We finish here about 6 o'clock, so yeah, if anyone would like to keep going, thank you very much. And remember, the photos and mementos are there to take. So thank you.